Welcome back, guys, to Kerbal Space Explosion. Remember this guy? That's right. This is Buzz Kerbal. He's been stuck on Eve for a very long time. And today we're launching a ship and we're gonna bring him home. So the ship I designed to rescue Buzz comes in 3 parts. And we're going to try launching them all simultaneously, split screen style. Well, in editing, I'm not actually gonna launch them at the same time. But on your screen, in the center, you will see the new lander in all its glory. On the left, you will see the interplanetary stage, and on the right, a little tug and a rover. And we'll get into the purposes of those in a bit. Anyway, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Why, thank you, Zisteau. I'll take over from here. Zisteau taking over from Zisteau. Over here on the left, we've got the interplanetary stage. It's gonna spin a little bit. It's got some huge rockets strapped to it. We've got the typical nuclear engine set up that I've used in my last few interplanetary flights. We've got a much simpler docking mechanism, and by that I mean just one docking port. So it's going to be a little bit wobbly in the flight between here and Eve and back, but it'll be much simpler to dock it and undock it and to swap out the overall order of the total ship, because we're going to have 4 parts. And we're going to need to move them around several times. And we're getting close to the end. We actually need to throttle up. I'm throttled too low. We need to throttle up. We're going to start doing some staging. And this should get into orbit pretty easily. Good job, Zisteau on the left. Zisteau on the right, taking over. Okay, so on the right here, on the right-hand side of the screen, we are lifting into space the third and fourth component at once. One of them here is this tug. And the one on top is this Jeep-like thing. It's a rover that I made, and I thought, well, if Buzz has to be in a rover for a while, he may as well be comfortable. So here's what's going to happen. Here's the basic plan, the way I envision this working, and we'll see if it actually happens or not. We're going to get to Eve, and then we're going to scout out a location with higher terrain elevation, so that we will be a little bit higher out of that thick atmosphere. We're going to try to land the new, improved lander there. Then, we're going to try to land this rover where Buzz is. And then Buzz is going to get in this rover, this very stylish Jeep-like rover. And Buzz is going to ride to where the new lander is. And then this guy here in the middle is a tug. So basically what he's going to do, he's going to push things around so that we don't have to use any fuel. I didn't have to put a lot of fuel in the rover. And we don't have to use fuel in our lander to push it out of orbit and let it fall into Eve's atmosphere. Alright, the whole ship has been assembled. I kind of regret doing this little joint right here, and I needed to do a test burn to see how long the total burn is going to be. Let's throttle all the way. Let's see what our estimate is. 8 minutes, 10 minutes. 5 minutes. It's changing on us a lot because we're getting a little wobbly action in our ship, and I think that's affecting the way it's calculating it. I sort of regret making this one single docking clamp. I wanted the whole thing to be a little bit more modular and not have to rely on those multi-docking clamps, but turns out those things make ships much more stable. So I sort of regret doing that. Oh well, it's too late now. And once we get there, I mean, this is like a one-way journey for this complicated stage, and coming back, the ship will be much simpler. Most of these parts will have been spent and left behind, so no big deal. I've got the rover on top. It's supposed to be on the side here. This is another design change that I did not anticipate. I've got these girders here, which are reinforcing this thing, trying to add a little more stability, but there's no way to add struts after the fact, at least not without mods. There is a mod that does that, by the way, which sounds awesome. You can get out with your Kerbal guy on IVA or on EVA and connect struts to reinforce your ship. Sounds amazing. Let me see, what are we doing with our periapsis? Is still fine. Alright, I just want to keep an eye on that so that we're not diving back into the wrong atmosphere. We have another atmosphere we're looking for. Anyway, this is going to be very wobbly. It's going to take a while. It's going to be kind of straightforward, just burning like this. Hopefully this doesn't snap. And we'll see you as we're crashing into Eve. All right, here we come into the gravity well and the atmosphere, the infamous atmosphere of Eve. I've got our periapsis set at 71,000 meters, and look who is at the helm of this rescue ship. That's right, it's Hudhat. Hudhat has returned. He has risen from the grave. He has been resurrected. This has come up previously in the series, but I've always been a little bit, ever so slightly critical that the Kerbins always come back after you lose them in action. I always kind of wished that the death was permanent, and that would allow you to form stronger... I thought it would allow you to form stronger connections with your little guys that you do missions with, because there's that threat that, well, if I mess this mission up, I'll never see him again. And I thought there would be something there. And I've been kind of critical of that in the past, but this time I'm actually kind of thankful that all of your little Kerbin guys, if you blow them up or kill them or whatever, if they crash and die, they will eventually come back and be available for use in future missions. So Hudhat is piloting this flight. We are in the atmosphere. And one thing I'm curious about is if this ship is going to break up in the atmosphere. So if I could redesign this ship, I would. In an instant, I would change this little clamp here. I would make it so that later we can use a single clamp if we want to attach, let's say, like this guy. Or it's hard for me to move the camera around just by the way we're orientated. But this guy right here, if we want to add that guy onto the top of there, where we could add that later. But then I would also like to have a 3-direction docking port setup for more lateral stability. I'm amazed this thing didn't break, because it did a lot of pivoting on that little joint there on the way here. But we got here safe and sound. So if we can do this, we can get into orbit and dump this lander somewhere suitable. I think all our problems, well, no, we'll still have more problems, but that problem will go away. Because once we come back up, we're going to dump this lander, and this guy is going to allow Buzz to travel to where this lander, this rover will allow Buzz to travel to where this lander lands. So it should be okay, I think. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's see, where's our overall periapsis going? Okay, this is coming down. Let's zoom back in. And we don't have an exactly flat entry point. I'm thinking that I might do a course correction so that we have a more or less equatorial orbit once we're done. But the big thing to figure out is, will we survive? Will we survive the fire? Alright, well, I went around through that aero braking procedure probably about 10 or 12 times, something like that, and there's diminishing returns with aero braking, so you get a little bit less for each rotation around, but we finally got down, and then I did a little finicky adjustments. We're at about 110,000 meters. The atmosphere of Eve extends up to 100,000 meters, so we're just above that mark. We're in a fairly flat orbit, and it doesn't quite line up with where Buzz is, but it's fairly close. I think it's close enough that we can drive a rover over to him. All right, so the next thing to do, we need to undock the tug and the rover, connect them together, and then use the tug to push the rover out of orbit so that he can go down to where Buzz is and pick him up and take him for a nice ride. Okay, so here's the initial burn. It's about 20 seconds worth of fuel from the tug here, which will just be a fraction. It'll be a little bit harder to do this with the lander, which is much larger. With this guy, it's not too big of a deal. Okay, so this decayed the orbit, so now we're scheduled to land around here. But when we start to hit the atmospheric interference, it'll give us some drag. We should end up somewhere short of there, and then we're going to drive over to Buzz. However far that is, however long it takes, we're going to do it. But we've done that. Okay, next thing we need to do, really quickly, we need to undock. Goodbye. And then we need to... Whoa, okay, jeez. I'm used to the super huge rocket ship that... Oh, okay, I just pushed that away with my rockets. Oh well. We need to get this guy back into orbit. And eventually we will rendezvous him with our main ship. Let's see, what's our periapsis? Let's, I think we need to point, like, basically straight up. More or less. So let's go up. Actually, let's see. I want to control from... I want to go kind of this way. And then we'll switch to the lander and land that guy. Yes, that's the ticket. Okay, it will mess up this side of our orbit a little bit, but it'll put us back in orbit that will not decay by the atmosphere. So that's good. And then we can worry about landing the lander. Just get that over 100K. Here we go. There's the rover. Experiencing some atmospheric entry, particle effects, whatever. Okay, let's deploy the chutes. Did they deploy? No, those were the engines. Deploy! There we go. Okay, so we weren't going that fast already. Just from the atmosphere slowing us down. The chutes will do a good job. And then they will pop at 500 meters above the surface, wherever that is. We have more on the back of this guy than on the front, because he's heavier on the back, and so that'll help to even him out just a little bit. And let's put on his brakes so he doesn't roll anywhere, and let's just level him out a little bit and leave the SAS on so he lands as flat as possible on these four wheels. Keep in mind, if the wheels bust before we can get to buzz, we will not be able to repair them. You need an actual Kerbal. You can't do it with a probe core. You need an actual Kerbal to be able to walk up to the tires and fix them. So that's kind of an important point. But I'm pretty confident with this many parachutes and with a craft of this small of a stature, we should be fine. We should be fine. There's the parachutes deployed, and that was quite flawless. And we are down to a surface speed of 2.9 meters per second. That's slow enough to land. I don't have any doubts anymore that we'll be able to land this guy safely. There we go. Okay, seems to be a success. None of the tires broke. Now what we need to do, we need to disable the reaction wheel so that the reaction wheel doesn't try to tip us over when we're trying to drive. Let's see. We need to go to buzz. Let's set this lander or whatever. Either one doesn't matter. Let's set that as a target. And the atmosphere really slowed us down a lot. The original trajectory had us landing somewhere over here. So we have to drive all the way over there. And that is to the left. Let's turn the brakes off. And let's get going. And try not to tip this thing over. This is Buzz's only option. If we tip this thing over on the way to him and crash it, he's going to have to go on foot. And that would suck. Well, we're making progress on our way to rendezvousing with Buzz. Let me hit the brakes on the rover here so that we can look around at the progress we've made. I think we're going to have to finish this up next time, though. I've just finished climbing out of this huge valley here. I think we landed somewhere around here, and I've been riding this rover, driving him, for about an hour, something like that, and it does take a long time to drive a rover. So I might have to do this off camera. And we will rendezvous with Buzz next time for episode number 100 of Kerbal Space Explosion. We'll rendezvous with Buzz, we'll land the lander, we'll take Buzz to the lander, we'll lift off with the lander, and hopefully get all the way back to Kerbal with both Hudhat and Buzz. That's the plan for episode number 100. I hope you guys enjoy the video. See you later. Take it easy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.